Welcome to Gray Overload. In this episode of Tony Tech Topics, we're going to go through some more news here. And we're going to start with Nvidia with their delay of the supercars, the 50 supercars. Now, I say delay as, in kind of, like, is it really delayed? We don't have an official announcement of it yet. But Mega Size GPU on Twitter had this, or on X, and then Video Cards wrote a nice article on it. Go check them out. They do a good job. But they're saying that they're going to delay this because there's reports of the 3 gig GDR7 memory shortages. Now, the shortage kind of makes sense, right? If you are trying to keep a price point here, especially with where AMD was at with price point, they could go higher, but there was a little bit of a pushback here from Nvidia, and sales didn't seem, from some of the stuff I've read and heard from, and there's been leaks from Moore's Law is Dead, etc. on this stuff, are not as strong as Nvidia was in the past. And if that's true, then making Nvidia, or having Nvidia wait 6 months and be like, we're not going to release these supercards until that point, makes a lot of sense for them, so that they can hit a price point to be in there to regain their dominance. Now, you had AMD kind of put their foot in the mouth last week with drivers, right? And so Nvidia probably, while they could seize on that and maybe push them out in Q1 like they were going to, or what it was rumored to be, Q3 to make sure those prices come down a little bit so that they have the supply and then also the cost to a point where it makes sense, probably is the benefit for them to try to make sure that they can capitalize on the users as much as possible, because that's, in the end, that's what they want, right? To be able to sell as many cards at the highest price that they can, and if they can get their margins where they want them, that's going to be good for them. Now, could they sell them lower? Probably, but that's not NVIDIA's style lately, and they want to make sure that they have it. But that was one thing that I saw from NVIDIA here that I wanted to start out with, because I think that they, uh, while it's not an official delay, right? It's just a back end rumor delay because nothing's been announced. I think going towards, even if it was Q2, made a little bit more sense. I know some people were rumored out there that it could be even this year. While that's just underneath a year since the normal cards came out, I think that having a little bit longer in the tooth, letting that product ride out a little bit more, and then releasing the supercars, I think builds a little bit better, more rapport with the consumer, rather than underneath a year where you could be like, now this cards came out, the supercar that I just bought, and let's say they come at it and for the same price, it really just puts a bad taste in a lot of consumers' mouths, being like, so I could have just waited for the supercars because you're going to launch them this close. And then you kind of do create in the future where some of the customers, if they don't need stuff, will just start waiting for, oh, I know the super launch is going to be 8 months after. Okay, I just wait 8 months, I get the super card, where Nvidia could have drummed up those sales for that first year for people that aren't, weren't on the fence of waiting, right? Because then you could have had a year of gaming out of it and been good. But jumping over, we had mentioned something about Northridge Fix. He runs a good repair shop from what I've seen, right? I haven't had anything repaired by him, but I definitely, if I needed something, I'd probably send it there if I was going to repair it myself. So he seemed like a guy that does a really good job. But on to what he was talking about here is that he had the 5090 Founders Edition, and it needed to be replaced. So this was one of those things where you're like, well, the PCB was damaged by the consumer, right? It's on the consumer because they're putting a water block on it. Really kind of, voided the warranty. It's the consumer self, right? An expensive car like that, you'd like to be able to fix it. Well, the replaceable parts weren't there. Seems like Nvidia is going to replace this card now, after it kind of escalated. And while that's great, Nvidia's replacing it, I would really like to see some of these parts available so that repair shops have the ability to repair these things, even if you have to go through Nvidia to be able to get the part sent over, whatever. This is, I don't like just throwing cards out. Now, maybe Once Nvidia gets the card, they'll be able to repair it and stuff and do it on their own and maybe sell it refurbished at that point. But I really like to see electronics be repaired and be reused. I don't. The whole Microsoft Windows 11 thing has really dr- just been like, come on, we're just throwing away working machines, and people want updates. So as people have gone through and it's gone longer, where their computer keeps complaining at them. If their computer wouldn't complain at them, I don't think many people would then look at updates. But this is where, if you were able to just repair it, keep it running, you save a lot of, e-waste and stuff like that. And maybe Nvidia will repair it and sell it refurbished someplace. But that's what I'd like to see, is a lot of stuff being repaired. The whole Windows thing, that's a whole nother story. We can get into that on a different day. It's I guess it's better on a different day than we go in on the on my, issues with Microsoft wanting to throw away everything. It just it's annoying to me to see that, but I, this is one of the things where now if somebody else creates a problem with their own GPU, what happens? Does Nvidia replace it now, or is there something else, or is Nvidia going to say the warranty is void because user broke it? This is one thing where they may have opened up a can of worms a little bit here, but that's Nvidia's choice to do, and maybe it's just such a small. They know about how many cars they sell. There's so few of these that it's worth it for their high-end cars, because it's a 5090, to just do that, make the customer happy, because they're spending what, like $3 grand on the card. Heck, they can do it again, and we'd rather have that $3 grand of a card. But if you did it on like a 5060, 5060 Ti, 5070, that may be a different story. They may just be like, no, that's a card where we're not going to honor this, because I could see that differentiation there a little bit. On the AMD side of things, so we're going to start with some lawsuits happening here over patents. And ADIA, I hope I pronounced their company's name right, has a lawsuit against AMD over the X3D chip. So this is the bonding, hybrid bonding, right? Bonding through the chiplets, and this is, I read their statement and stuff like this. There's allegedly patent infringement. They think it's going to be interesting, because I think AMD has some stuff on this as well. Then there's the whole, I think there's some patents that also held by some of the manufacturing companies like TSMC, etc. So where do these go through? ADIA says that there's 10 patents that are being infringed upon, and so far, 7 of them are the hybrid bonding, 3 of them are advanced process node technology, which advanced process node technology, at what point does that go on the manufacturing side of things and not just AMD? This is a real interesting part to this. We'll see what happens, right? There's going to be litigation. There's still an option where there's a negotiation, right? There could be mediation and all this and stuff, depending upon how far it gets, where it goes, what it is. It's been going on for a little while, this negotiation, from what I've read on it, and I'm I'm interested to see where this all goes. You think that there'd be something like this, especially, it's taken off a lot. I bet if this did not take off and AMD doesn't have all that AI money coming in, that this is kind of a lot more quiet. Uh, this is maybe even something that doesn't bubble up, but yeah, they say more money, more problems happens to be more money, more litigation as well, because people are after you, and maybe they do have a legitimate case. I would have to dive in and really look at this. I have I get the whole patent system of what it's supposed to do, but I feel like it's really broken inside the United States of what it actually does, and I have read enough on this and seen enough stuff that for in other cases that really bothers me of how this is. So I'm just going to leave it there before I'd have to read a lot more. I didn't have time this week to kind of read in, busy with some kids stuff, and my wife had me wanted to do some family stuff, so it was more on that this week than it was diving in and reading stuff in my off time to see what is all in this lawsuit. So, and what they're all trying to do here. But the big thing for AMD here, and we're going to talk about this, is the walkback of AMD on their drivers for RDNA1 and RDNA2. Uh, this I started our video out probably a little bit earlier than everything kind of happened, because after I released the video, I had to do a, a comment on it saying, "Oh, there's an update to this," and I could just be doing 3 of them at this point. I'm like, I mentioned in the last news one, I'll do it in this one. AMD is walking back a little bit of what they said. Now, this is what I said kind of last week, is AMD needs to do a much better job of talking. It was like marketing decided to be like, we haven't been dumb enough this year. Let's make sure we try to make sure we tell the users we are pretty, going to mess things up. And let's put that out there, because that's what I got from this whole thing. They're walking back. They will have game optimizations for RDNA1 and RDNA2. Now, at this point, these GPUs are quite, quite long in the tooth, as in they've had game optimizations happen for quite a long time. I don't know how many of these optimizations are just game specific now, or if they've taken the time to actually refine the architecture underneath with the driver to make sure everything is operating smoothly. If they've done that, it really, the game optimizations are going to be minimum to begin with, because they've already done that work for them. So hopefully that's what it is, and not there's a little piece of dust floating here. There, that has happened rather than they are optimizing for every game. While RDNA 3 and RDNA 4 are still quite new, especially RDNA 4, and if those are getting kind of new features going forward, you kind of need to have a separate branch for that to make sure you are working on optimizing those GPUs well, right? Making sure they're going there. So Black Ops 7 will get it, right? AMD has come out and said they will be doing these optimizations. I read their article here and gone through a lot of what they said, and it was a whole bunch of trying to make sure that they are on the getting back in the good graces, right? There's going to be stability, security, and bug fixes, game support of new releases. For those games that, for me now, I'm seeing this, for those games that have needed, they're going to run it through a test. There's still going to be separate driver paths. One's going to be in the, this is why you don't call it a maintenance driver. You can just say we're splitting the driver development. It's going to be in the same package, I think, currently. But you can just have different driver paths, right? There's, each of these cards probably have, well, we know that they have names to them, right? And the check on them. We've seen the Linux driver, or, Linux driver stuff. So, AMD at least is listening. They said, we've heard your feedback. This gives you a little bit of a pause if you're on those cards. Now, I don't think those cards would be dead overnight, right? I've used old cards, right? I've even picked up Polaris, right? And ran those just to see how they're working. They still work well, right? I kind of like some of that stuff, but that's one of those things where AMD was very confused on, to say the least. And now they are finally kind of maybe straightening it out. And maybe it's a lesson to be learned, what they need to be doing going forward with their drivers. When they need to be about the same length as what Nvidia is doing in their drivers. And if you can't do that, then you have to make sure you you figure out how to make it as long, and how to get support, because if Nvidia is supporting this, you need to be supporting it for just as long as their GPUs, because they are the market leader, and you have to make your products attractive and be like, well, they can still game, but we'll still have this. So that's one thing I'd like to see across AMD do it a little bit more here. But let's go to Zen 6 here before I comment on another RDNA thing. But the Zen 6 CPU cores, there's been Insta Lat X64. Had some stuff about the ISA on it. That's kind of the instruction sets, right? And that's going to have AVX 512, BMM, uh, 512F16, AVX NE convert, and stuff. A couple other things with the AVX on there as well. This is patch notes that were in the Linux kernel, I believe, if I recall. So, this pertains to, a lot of the server stuff. It needs, I guess, wants is the correct term. I don't know if it really needs it, right? But they want some of these things being supported in these CPUs, and they're getting it, right? You're going to have these core counts are getting up there, more proficient. You're having a lot of demand for AI, a lot of demand for different things as well as if you're not going to use it for AI, you're going to also have it for many multitude of other things here. And this is where the roadmaps are. Moore's law is dead. Has done a good job on. I mean, he even had his Zen 7 video. I'm not going to mention Zen 7 right now. Go watch his video. But he's done a lot with Zen 6 and seeing where that's coming from. This is these products here that AMD is delivering. If they can hit on some of the rumors, I'm just going to say some, not even all. I think they're going to have a very good product that Intel's going to be stretching to get for. Of course, we're going to have to see where Nova Lake gets to. But with the instruction sets and everything else, I think AMD is really trying to make sure that their customer bases are covered so that they're delivering the best for that as well. So I think that's one huge thing overall that we can see that AMD is doing now, or AMD is trying to accomplish with these CPUs. Now, on the AMD's driver 10 or 25.10.2, I will say this. That driver, I just want to mention, seems to have some crashing issues. I don't know if you've had any crashing issues. I've had customers call me with that driver on because AMD auto updates, and they all of a sudden were having some crashing issues, which you can go and have to download the old driver, revert it, and then make sure you uncheck automatic updates. Yeah, and make sure you uncheck one of my personal desktops here, or my main desktop, I should say. That was having that issue. As soon as I reverted it, the crashing stopped. So there is a bug there in that driver. I don't know if everyone's seeing it, because on my media center I've had this on there too. Doesn't have the issue, so it could be some of the software I'm running. Could be also that probably the software, because one machine that I had to help a client on, that was yeah, that was just a uninstall. That was all software based. I don't think it's the thousands of or about 1,000 tabs in my browsers that are causing it. I hope not. But I just want to mention that as well. So AMD has announced that they have multitude of AI customers. So they're saying OpenAI partnerships to help going forward, especially with their MI400 products or the next gen products. So awesome. I want to see how this goes, because we'll touch on another article here in a little bit with Microsoft, and they're rewriting or trying to get a translation layer from CUDA to ROCm. If they have kind of some of this, they want competitive pricing. This opens up a lot of things for AMD, and maybe that's what a lot of people are doing. I'm actually interested to see how. I don't know if this is out there, but how much of the CUDA stuff that you've done, and Microsoft's getting this translation layer or whatever else, right? We've seen other translation layers out there as well. How much is it of we're actually having some of the AI stuff figure out the translation stuff, so that we do have something that we can run a ROCm? That would be interesting. And does this then open up when you have that? Because ROCm's still coming up, and Instinct is still getting there, and I think ROCm's starting to take off more and more. I'm seeing it more and more in places. So as you get some of that feature parity, let's say you get where all the calls are paired into some APIs, then on the AMD side, from the CUDA side, how long does that take then the people to realize this is a fully functional, we can do one-to-one translation of things and of calls, and all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense to start really converting stuff over. That could be something that takes off, I think, as well. So we'll talk about here the 870. ASRock has some 870 boards. Hopefully this maybe solves some of the issues they were having with CPUs exploding. I know that there's also some 870, I thought I saw Gigabyte announce some 870 boards as well. They look, their 8 gigabyte ARS Extreme X3D. So there, there's some, and this thing's got a full screen on it. It is insane. A lot of newer X870 boards are coming out here, and that's something to keep an eye on too. If you're in the market for some of these, take a look at that and go from there. Right? This is if it's in your price range and that's something you want, I think that's could be a good board and good option for you. I think a lot of the 600 series boards are kind of been we're not making them anymore, so you're getting a lot more of the 800 series there as well. Another Sapphire 9070 XT Nitro Plus is melting adapter. So this is a 12V 6x2 adapter. The 16 pin, because it's got the 4 cents pins right on there. I think it does on this one too. And it's melted. Yeah, 4 cents pins. And this video cards had this. I'm just like, at what point can we get over the melting of these? It's something I really would like to see stop, but we are not there yet of getting it stopped. And yeah, it's sad to see. It's at some point, like I said before, I'm just frustrated because this connector has to get fixed at some point. We need better reliability of it, and it can't be a constant thing of, oh, it melted, right? That can't keep popping up every couple months because it's either going to be connector, it's either going to be like this, and you see Northridge Fish still fixing stuff, and there's other people out there fixing it as well. So I'm getting frustrated, and I don't even have a card with the 16 pin that they can't figure this out. Before we jump over to Intel here, I'm going to talk about a Nvidia thing I forgot, which is the Asus has a ROG Matrix 4090. This thing is insane. It needs software to detect if it's not level, if it's sagging too much. I was reading this on video cards and I didn't think it was a thing, and then I read into it. I'm like, oh no, they're actually making sure that the card's perfectly 90 degrees. Uh, it's so heavy there. So if you get that card, you get that software, that'll be really fun to see as well. On that same topic there, I know, go watch DeBauer's video. I want to mention this real quick. He has a 12 6 by or 2x6 right connector that then monitors each line in going through. He's got a little adapter now that can tell you the amperage and stuff off of it with software. Does also the high 12 volt high power, right? Or that's what it was, 12V high power. I don't even remember the old connector's name, but that was pretty cool there as well. So on the Intel side, before we get into everything else, is that I emphasized launching this little Pico ITX board. Thought it was really cool. Actually, it's supposed to be like a harsh environment. Only got 2 USB, 2 NICs on it, a HDMI, a little bit bored. Got DC 12 volt in. Yeah, there's no price on it. Would like to know the price. I'm looking at a Raspberry Pi just to kind of do some stuff, but it has a 2.5 gig NIC on it. So, well, the Raspberry Pi doesn't. And so for some of the stuff I wanted to do here with it, I want a 2.5 gig NIC, but a really kind of cool device there that they've came out with. There's also a little article that there was a rumor article that video cards had Bionic Squash on X had some stuff on this, but they were talking about different Battle Mage series GPUs two that were canceled between 40 Xe2 cores and 28 Xe2 cores. Um, the 32 Xe2 core variant may come at some point. We'll see. I say may at this point because I really think that Intel's kind of just saying goodbye at this point. I just don't see how for Intel they want to continue down this, but maybe they do. Maybe they're not like, you know what, this is something that we actually want to do, something that we're willing to do, but I just don't see it. Uh, I can see them coming out maybe with the next gen and seeing where they go from there. But yeah, with everything going on at Intel, I think that they're kind of sitting this one out for a little bit. But let's jump into some of the let's jump into that Microsoft news. So this, you know, the Microsoft news with the AMD using AMD AI chips. Now, AMD AI chips are cheaper, so that's one reason why Microsoft is trying to do and create this cool toolkit to convert their CUDA models to ROCm models. And so they're doing it with like 300, but there's been a lot of inquiries to Microsoft about the path for the 400X and the 450X. So they're working with AMD to try to maximize that. So not just is this going to be something Microsoft does to be able to help out themselves, but it seems like other people are interested in this as well. And this is going to be, I think, a benefit for the industry as a whole if Microsoft's going to be able to come out with this. One, Microsoft is, you know, known for software. Let's put it that way. I'm not going to put good software. We've seen where Windows has gone from where it's at today. But if they can migrate this and go to a system where they can have these toolkits, people can put them in with their CUDA codes, they can be translated, and these toolkits can work then on the AMD side. Heck, even in the Azure area, that would be pretty huge. I'm guessing that there would be something where maybe Amazon, AWS side of things, when it's not down, to be able to go through and license some of the toolkits as well, so that they could have the same demand there on their side, right? While Microsoft does compete with AWS on the Azure side, I'm sure if they can get a licensing fee for some of these toolkits to have that translation go back and forth, they'd be willing to make some money on that. Uh, but that also creates better competition on the hardware side, right? Because then if everything runs on both, then you're getting to a point where, guess what? That's which product do you want to see, the AMD side or the Nvidia side? Which one's actually faster? As long as all the calls map pretty consistently, that should be pretty good for the consumer side of things. So that's what I've wanted to kind of talk about there. This other article, we've been hearing rumors. Video cards had this. He's seen this other place. I think Neil Wind had it and stuff. Is that there's been a consideration for Windows 11 26H1. And why would Microsoft need to do that? I thought they were going to one update a year. Now they're going back to two. And it's actually not a feature update, according to Microsoft here. They said that the 26H1, not a feature update. They are, and when Microsoft had this, the updated for version 25H2 and only includes platform changes to support specific silicon. There's no action required from consumers. So the hardware there, it seems like it's going to be Qualcomm X2 and Nvidia N1 oriented silicon. So one, you know, Microsoft for any AMD or Intel stuff would just have released a, you know, regular update, made that patch in there to make it work. Now the new Qualcomm stuff gets their own, and ARM stuff gets their own stuff. Tells me that there's more issues with it than Microsoft would care to admit, right? Because otherwise this would just be a update in there, and we're just going to have the software. It's going to run fine. This tells me that we're getting this silicon running, but there's more changes than what we want to just throw in an update, and we like these devices to kind of go off. You know, Nvidia not coming out with the N1X devices until next year, right? This points to it that it will be sometime in the 2026 H1, because hence the OS name. is that it was not ready at all in 25, and they needed a lot of work because I thought that Jensen would want to have a good product to come out, and he wasn't going to come out with a good product until the software was working. I thought that that would only be on the Linux side of things. Here we are now with Windows, and I don't know if he fully thinks that Windows is ready, but he's hoping that after a year of this being out, that it's good enough to be released. We will see what it is. We'll see how this competes in the market. I have my reservations on this as well, but at some point, I think Nvidia is, itching to get this product out there, and they're like, "Come on, Microsoft!" And this is what we're going to see with the Windows 11 26H1 for it. Then the feature update will be later in the year, but I have some I have some major questions still to this day on how this is going to go. So let's see, what else was there. I thought there was some Asus has a new 3000 watt capacity power supply. If you need that, that's going to be one for the ages here. Yeah, yep. If you want that, you can go get it. Go take a look at it. Asus is doing a OLED release, and one of the OLEDs will have a 720 hertz panel. Uh, if you need something that fast as well, I think these are both 1440p if I recall. I read the article a little bit earlier today, or earlier this week, I should say, and 720 at 1440p, and then the other one is a mid-range 1440p at 280 hertz. So, getting some new monitors out. We're getting some stuff here. I hope that's going to be out before Christmas, but that's where I'm kind of thinking a lot of the stuff is coming up. And so we will jump now. Oh, I want to talk about Samsung real quick, and then we're going to jump into gaming. So Samsung here real quick. LPDDR6 going to be, they're saying going to be announced at CES. Samsung is. Video cards did have this as well. You're going to be able to do 10.6 gigatransfers a second up to about 14.4, someplace in there. This is going to be, some of these big jumps here is why we're starting to see, from Moore's Law is Dead has been saying is that some of the next gen GPUs may just use LPDDR instead of GDDR. So that'll be interesting to watch as these, these systems become more and more memory demanding, right? And they want speed and they want memory size, right? That's two things that they need. And this is another option that they're putting out there. So let's jump into the gaming. First, we're going to start with Steam. If you look at some of the Steam gaming metrics, it looks like Linux right now is about 3% of players, and of that 3%, about 30% is the Steam OS. That's pretty cool. If they ever get that out there, there's a whole list of different Linuxes out there, but we're at 3%. Can we get edging up there? The big test will be, I want to create a little machine here, game on Linux. If we can get Linux to be at a point where a game developer's game, like a AAA title, will be released with Linux as the supported OS along with Windows, I think that is going to be a big sign of things to come, especially for Linux. I think that's also going to be a big boost to Linux because then people feel a lot more comfortable at jumping over, knowing that their game will be supported on that OS, and maybe it'll even incentivize some other people to be like, you know what, that's what we're going to do as well. Also may change a few things of, DirectX and everything else being ran on, but, we'll see where that goes to as well. Maybe Microsoft brings DirectX or something. I don't know how integrated it is into Windows. I'm guessing it pretty is. But can you imagine if they brought that to Linux? All of a sudden, you have some of that stuff over. I don't think they can with everything integrated. But, one can dream. There is a lot of consoles being sold from the Switch, too. It's it's 10 million units sold already, 10.36 according to Nintendo, and the Switch has 154 million units sold. A lot of units here. It looks like it's been successful launch so far. Great to see, I guess. I wasn't, with the prices going up as much as it did. I did not see that being that big of a sale, but I guess I'm wrong. So uh, I thought that there would be a little bit slower pace here, and that does not seem to be the case. So we'll see how the Switch 2. I'll especially keep tabs on it because I want to see how many AAA titles and start coming to it, because it's supposed to be a lot more powerful than the Switch. So if we see that, I think that will be telling to see how this kind of goes forward. Especially, Microsoft said Call of Duty and everything else was going to go there as well. So I expect those at some point here. Um, see some news articles on, especially Black Ops 7, where that is on the Switch. GTA 6, very anticipated game. It's launched now, November 26th. So this came out from Rockstar Games, and the release now will be Thursday, November 19th on 2026. They're sorry for the additional time, and it's been a long, they realize it's been a long wait. No, really. Uh, well, they just stated they want to thank you for the patience, and we're incredibly excited for players to experience the state of Ladonia and return of modern-day Vice City. So that's what they kind of said there. Yeah, on that topic of Rockstar Games, there was an article there saying that some people were let go because of leaks, and there's another anonymous Rockstar employee saying WCCF Tech had this, that there was no leaks. The layoffs were indeed union busting. So I don't know if this is going to be something we're going to have to pay attention to in the future, because you could see some governments being, uh, what are you doing here? Are you even allowed to do this? Hopefully they ran it through some lawyers first, but yeah, I saw this and I was just like, oh, here we go, right? There's something else out there that got to pay attention to. So let's go to Electronic Arts here. Now, if the sale of Electronic Arts goes through for the $55 billion buyout, right? Now, Saudi Arabia has got some money in there. Silver Lake, right, is the other part of it. Are saying that EA will maintain creative control. So there is that. I'm sure that this is some of the things to kind of go through to try to help pass it through some of the regulatory bodies. Okay, this is creative control until what? You stop making as much money as what they need, or you're not making enough money and they need some guidance on it. There's that aspect of it. I am curious to see where this is going. Was this just to try to help get it across the line? Everything. You know what? I want these game companies to succeed, even the indie ones, right, and create good games. But as Microsoft has shown, sometimes when these companies buy out, don't anticipate that things are going to be all, roses and rainbows. They're going to be maybe a little bit more choppy waters, and you may have some issues. So, yeah, that's there, and that I got mixed feelings about this. EA is not the most one of having developed the most pristine games in the past and doing what's best for the gamers. Just saying. So Bioshock there, Take-Two was talking about this. Bioshock game I did enjoy. I've played through it. They said they're excited. They're going to be taking Bioshock to the next level, and it should be exciting. We'll see. I, you know, we're getting the announcement of these games, especially games that I've played in the past, and I'm excited about them. At the same time, I like to see some new IP, new creations, and see what they can do with some new stuff, and not rely on everything that they've created in the past. Well, you can bring that forward, maybe create some other stuff that we're also interested in. I'll take two boss on Borderlands 4 sales. They are softer than they wanted. And video cards had this as well. They were talking about this in the article, or had quotes from with Randy Pitchfork, talking, where he's fighting back against players and everything else. Even called the PC version, right, pretty optimal. And now they're saying that the reason why the PC sales were softer was points to poor PC release. So you got some contradictions there. If you think that you're getting, let's say you're getting complaints from a sector of, let's say that's the PC or, PlayStation or Xbox or wherever it's at, instead of just saying, oh no, it's good and whatever else, just go through and say, what, we're going to take a look. We want this to be the best experience for gamers, and we want gamers to enjoy it. Well, this is the whole AMD with drivers thing. Stop trying to think that you're, above everything, and think that you can plow through by sticking to what you think was right. Instead, you're not going to win that PR side of things when the consumer playing your game is going to be upset and maybe decide, you know what, I don't want to buy that game. Mass Effect, right, continues to be in development, figuring out new stuff. Uh, the, you know, there's that. The mass, I also read that it's going to be uh, to feature the Krongan Civil War. A lot of, if you're into Mass Effect, there's some of that stuff there as well. But that's about it for this week. I know I've gone on for a little long here, but excuse me, gone on for a little long, but I did enjoy a lot of the topics today. Let me know if I've missed anything, if you want to see anything else as well. I want to thank you so much for watching Gray Overload and help us channel grow, and thank you for watching this episode of Tony Tech Topics. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon, as it really does help out the channel. Until next time, God bless.